And now, please welcome your hosts, Amy and Trey Cassels.
Hey everyone, it's Amy Cassels. I have today as very special guest, Heather Hartman Potter. Say hello.
Hello, hello.
So Heather is a retired law enforcement officer with over 19 years of dedicated service, specializing in the Crimes Against Persons Unit, where she investigated sex crimes involving women and children. She was also part of the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, ICAC, investigating cases of exploitation, manufacturing, possession, and distribution of child pornography. Drawing from her professional background and personal experiences as a child survivor, Heather has channeled her expertise and resilience into her business, Hartman Tactics, which centers around empowering women through education, strength, awareness, personal safety, and above all, confidence. Heather, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited just to have a fun conversation with you, but also serious conversation. You and I don't get serious for too long.
No, we don't.
So if y'all remember, Heather came on our podcast last year as Hartman Wellness.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I stood out in the parking lot. Well, first off, the first part of the podcast, we were talking about your experience in law enforcement just a little bit.
Yeah.
And you lit up.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were talking about what you were doing at the time, nutrition. And then it was a different energy. And then you and I talked out in the parking lot. And I said, I feel like there's something missing. And you knew it. And you said it too.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are today.
Yeah.
So from that time, Heather and I have become really good friends. We've clicked. We talk almost every single day. I mean, if I don't get a good morning text, like something's happened.
Yes.
But today I really want to have a serious conversation because what you're doing is big. And you are this Miss Minnesota, who's coming to Texas, and you're making a big splash.
Yay.
For really good reason. So first question, and actually, hold on a second. I really want to say that since I've gotten to know you, I have known that you are extremely smart.
Thank you.
You're funny. You're very intuitive. You are approachable. You are consistent in everything that you do. You're hardworking. You're committed. You're very loyal. And you follow through. And you are goofy as hell. You are the funniest. You are one of my very, very funny friends. And I love that.
Only in front of my friends.
First, let's go back to, why did you want to be a cop?
Oh, that's a loaded question that I didn't expect. Okay. I'm all about transparency and honesty. So you guys are going to get it like it is. So I grew up with my dad and two brothers. My mom wasn't in the picture since I was about 3 years old. But being a little girl wanting to be with her mom, I had to travel to get that time with my mom. My mom's upbringing was a lot different than mine. I'm lucky that my dad was my rock, and my dad, he shaped who I am now, especially with, the strength and the resilience and all of that. And I want to be very careful how I word this because I love my mom. She's my mom, right? But she just had a very different life. And so she was in bad relationship after bad relationship, and one of which stands out the most. And I'm not going to say his name, but watching the domestic abuse and the violence to her in that situation was hard. It was really hard, to the point where I had at one point, grown up now I'm an adult, and I had a baby. I had an infant, a child under 1 year old. And I felt like it was my responsibility to save my mom. So I moved from Minnesota and I drove in my little Honda CRX and brought my baby to Florida, where she was living most of my life, to try to save her from this person, from this situation. And my mom's alive, right? And she's well, but that situation, I wasn't able to help her in that situation. So watching that, I've always just had this, and I don't think it was just that. I think I've always been a justice seeker, and I've always been very much somebody that focuses on right and wrong. But I've always been somebody that I take the burden of everybody else's stuff on, and I don't want to say that your stuff is a burden, but I take it on as my own, right? And so seeing that with my mom, and then seeing that with other women, I just was like, I have to help. I just have to help somehow. And I didn't know what that looked like, but I knew that somehow I had to be able to help women see their value and their strength.
So When you were a cop, you worked in some very difficult units.
Mhm.
Is that how you started out?
So I started on patrol. Typically, in most departments and most agencies, you start on patrol. And after 9 years on patrol, I was promoted into the investigative unit. And the first year is typically a trial year, and to get your feet wet, to understand what every unit does. And then during that time, a full-time spot opened. And I remember I had a boss, a sergeant, Marty Early, and he believed in me. And one day he walked into my office, and, Marty had like a really stern presence about him, right? But he walked in my office with this big file, and he said, "Potter, there's a full-time position coming up." He dropped this file on my desk and said, "Sink or swim." And it was a case of elderly abuse. And that was the case. And I ended up getting to stay.
Wow. Okay. For a little fun question.
Mm-hmm.
How are you in Police Academy? Because I have to say, my favorite movie series is Police Academy, specifically Police Academy #5. And you remind me of the Police Academy 5. What was her name? I can't remember. But she's like really in shape, and she's like just tough as everything. And how are you in Police Academy?
I don't remember it. Well, okay, not to like bring this fun question down, but so you obviously go through the classroom portion, the school portion, and then you go to the academy that you're referring it to. But that was right around 9/11. So it was actually 9/11 happened my first week or the second week in the academy. So it was a different time, right? But I'm very serious when it comes to school stuff. Sometimes I wish I could just let the fun Heather escape a little bit more. But when it comes to something serious or something I'm trying to do, I wish I had fun stories to tell you. But I was that person that was like super anxious, super uptight, wanting to be perfect, making sure I did everything correct.
So there were no like pranks going on between? No. Okay.
Not.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Through this process of you building your website and getting your business going, Hartman Tactics, there are days I've called you like at 8 in the morning and you're like, "Oh, I'm getting to work." And then I talk to you at like 6 o'clock at night and you're still sitting there. I'm like, man, you got some work ethic.
It's why I haven't been to the gym in a couple of months, and that's not okay, but I can't get away from my computer because this is so important to me that I just keep trying to work behind the scenes.
What did you do as community outreach when you were a police officer or when you were a detective?
In what sense exactly are you?
Well, you had mentioned before that you would go into schools.
Oh, okay.
Things like that.
The position that I was in initially, so I was in the Crimes Against Persons unit, and there's a broad spectrum of like what we would investigate, but essentially it was any cases that were against a person, violent cases against a person, right? When I first started, I was assigned child protection, and they also wanted me to take on a lot of the cases that would happen in the schools. So I wasn't a school liaison per se. Well, I guess you could say I was a school liaison, but I didn't work in the school. I worked in the office. But when we get bombarded with all these cases and your queue of caseload is like this, and you're getting these cases for, "Oh, my kid was bullied," or this happened. You're reading it and you're like, "No, this isn't bullying." Like in my day, that was, it's like people didn't understand what bullying was. And it was really frustrating to me because I had really big, important cases to work on, and not saying bullying is not an important subject because it is, but what people were presenting as cases of bullying truly weren't. It was just truly kids being kids, right? But just different verbiage than when we were younger. So I took it upon myself to start going to PTSA meetings and giving presentations on educating parents on this is what bullying is per state statute. I can understand that this is how you're perceiving bullying. So it started with educating parents, right?
Okay.
And then it just kind of evolved based on the cases I was getting. So now I'm getting a lot of abuse cases or sex crimes cases, and internet tends to be where it all starts. And whatever happens at home is brought into the school, right? So now I'm like, now I need to educate students and parents about how do we be safer online? Like, what do we post? Why do we post it? What do we not post? I used to say all the time, if you're not going to show your grandma and grandpa, don't post it, right? Because there's probably something wrong. So it just evolved. So it started with bullying. Then it started with educating on, safer social media. Then it started with internet crimes against children. So now I wanted to educate the older kids. And then it was like sexting and all of those things. Like, hey, do you know that this falls within the state statute of child pornography? And so I would educate the high schoolers. Like, we understand being kids are kids, right? But when we send a picture of this, we are just distributing child pornography. So then I started opening the eyes of parents and opening the eyes of the kids, and it just kept evolving.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And parents and kids don't realize, and I did not realize this until you told me that if your teenager, let's say your teenager is 10th grade and he gets a picture of a girl, now he has possession of child pornography.
Depending on the picture, yes.
Depending on the picture. But then he sends it to somebody else. Now he's distributing
child pornography.
But he's a child. So yes, he can still get in trouble. But not only does he get in trouble, the parents get in trouble if the parents are found, correct?
Parents aren't going to get in trouble unless the parents are aware of and somehow participating in this. But what I was trying to explain last time is typically when you're a student, right? Your parents are paying your phone bill. So dependent on the material and how, I guess, how graphic, how the frequency, I'm trying to figure out how to word this to make it easy. Long story short, there is a way when it comes to like NCMEC, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, people reporting tips, right? Or there's computer programs that can find this metadata or whatever it is in the photographs, right?
They're watching.
So they're watching, right? So when this is flagged, then it starts with an IP address. When we do the investigation to find out who that IP address belongs to, now it's the parent, right? So now depending on the material, if it warrants a search warrant, we're coming into your house. So your house is getting searched because of what your child is doing.
And I mean, there was a case that I know about within our county where there was something that was downloaded apparently by mistake. And then the perfect storm happened because there was construction going on at their house. So there was a lot of people coming and going. Then they had a pods container outside the house, which the pods container looked as if it could be possibly housing individuals. And it just looked really bad across the board. Then there was some insurance money that came in for the construction because of the flooding. And then all of those reasons, they came in and raided. Well, guess what? Those parents, their reputation is ruined because people automatically say, oh, that like you're guilty.
So I don't know the circumstances of what you just said or what computer it was downloaded from, but very rarely in my experience of investigating ICAC cases, very rarely is something accidentally downloaded.
Well, apparently it was because it's all just completely dismissed now.
It can happen, but it's very rare that something is accidentally downloaded.
I hear you. I hear you. And then, so let's say that your teenager is involved in this and now they're like collecting them like we did Garbage Pail Kids cards. Yeah. Like we collected Garbage Pail Kids cards. Now kids are collecting.
Potty Scotty. I remember Potty Scotty.
Buttface was my favorite. The one with he was a butt face and he had pimples all over it. That was terrible. Okay. But then these kids are going to college and then they're selling them or even selling them in high school.
The images?
Yes.
Yeah, that's not okay.
And then that turns into something. So yes, all these things are so important for us as parents to open our eyes to and just being aware of these situations.
We just need to be educated and the schools need to be able to educate as well or to be able to bring people in that, you know, that have the background, the knowledge when it comes to the consequence side of things or the criminal side of things, and also relate to the kids and let them know, we understand that as kids, we do certain things, you know, but times are changing. The crimes are increasing. The content is getting much more graphic. So they just need to be educated.
Would you say that your time in law enforcement, that you were fulfilling your passion?
At that time, yes, 1,000%. 1,000%, because for me, I truly, it wasn't about, you know, the patrol side wasn't necessarily my thing, right? It wasn't about the adrenaline or driving really fast or having authority. For me, always, and it sounds cliche, but always from my heart, it's always been to help. And children have really been a spot for me. Children and women, right? Women and children. So yeah, it was at that time.
The average person, this was a statistic that I learned recently. The average person will experience 1.5 to 2 legitimate critical incidents in their lifetime. But the average police officer over a 20-year career will experience 100 critical incidents within their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
What was your creative outlet, or excuse me, maybe not creative outlet, but what was your outlet or anything that you could do during your time?
So if I'm being honest, that was probably my downfall, is because when I see something as being unjust, I can't let it go. I don't stop the fight. So as much as I knew that I needed, when I'm looking at children being abused, and sometimes in very graphic sexual ways, right? Women as well, but I couldn't let it go. So that was probably one of my downfalls, I guess, is that, and it was all with good intention. I made sure that my reports were solid, like every single question that who, what, when, where, why, how was there. But as much as I wish that there was an outlet, I was guilty of taking that home. I wasn't taking it home in a manner of which it was like hurting a relationship or anything per se, but I couldn't let it go. Like my brain was always thinking. So when I was trying to be present with my person and having dinner, I'm thinking about this child. I'm thinking about the next interview. I'm thinking about my report, and I just couldn't let it go. And then when I would see the courts not responding appropriately in my eyes, right? Because everything's about reunification of the child to the parent. That didn't sit well with me a lot of times, because I just knew that the child wasn't getting the help they needed. So it was really hard for me. And I don't want to, in some states, Minnesota, you want to go to be able to go to therapy, not because you're being reactive to something, but to be proactive, right? To be able to get some of that stuff off your chest, to be able to go home to your family and not have to be thinking about it. So like, let's say I had a really bad child sex case. I'd be okay in the sense that, you've got this armor on and you do your job, but I have a heart and I've had experiences as a child myself. And I think that's why I was in this position, and I really want to help. So would it have been helpful for me to be able to go talk to somebody just to say, hey, I had this case today. I understand all the who, what, when, where's, and why's behind it, but I just need to get it off my chest and give it to somebody else, right? So that I can go home and have a quiet mind, be able to get a good night's sleep, and not be distant from my partner or my child. And really weren't able to do that because of the fear. And I don't think it's just where I was from, but I think in general, police have a fear that if we do that, if we're involved in a critical incident, is it going to be used against us in court? Is it going to be used to try to discredit us, right? So, but we're human. We're not robots.
You told me that, and that was the sickest thing I think I've ever heard. I could not believe that. I thought that police officers had, detectives had a open door to any therapy that they
do
needed.
Now. Things are changing in a lot of departments. Okay. Now they do the checkups from the neck ups. There's privacy, there's anonymity, there's, to where you don't have to give your name, you don't have to give any information, you don't need insurance. So now it's gotten better. But this has just happened over the last, and don't quote me, but 5 years or so, 3 to 5 years. But before that, it was a real thing. It was actually a fear that you would have because, therapists have to document, they have to have a written document of what's going on, right? So if you were involved in certain critical incidents, could a defense attorney subpoena your mental health records or, in order to hold something against you? Yeah, they could.
That's so sickening.
Right. So a lot of us, and also just, I think that tough exterior, right? Or that armor, like we don't need that. We're here to help. We don't need the help. Right. But I think we're all human, and sometimes we all need to get stuff. I almost swore stuff off our chest.
It's all right.
I swear.
It's all right. We've dropped a few cuss words on this podcast. That's for sure. So I guess I want to go back to that question though. You had to have something that you were interested in outside of being in law enforcement. Yeah, I love my family. I love my girlfriends. I love to go do things. But, since retiring, I've been able to let go a little bit. Been able to not feel. You got to understand, in the cases that I worked, I would have my door shut and people would walk by my office. They wouldn't even want to look because it's glass. They wouldn't even want to look in there because they knew I was probably watching something really horrible and graphic, right? So it's sad. Now that you're asking me this question, I'm thinking about this going, I have a lot of life experience, but I think I wish I could say I had some kind of an outlet where I was just like, woohoo, let's go do this. Let's let it go. But you did. I think I know the answer. What is the answer? Because I can't think of it. What did I do? You were heavily into fitness. Oh, okay.
Yes, I would go to the gym. Sorry, I thought it was supposed to be something fun. No.
Well, that can't be fun.
No.
That was your
that would
was
be a
your
stress relief. Yes.
Yes, that was a stress relief, and you were very good,
Mhm.
and you still are very good. It was definitely a natural talent for you,
Mhm.
which is ultimately what led you into going into nutrition.
Oh yeah.
For a little while. After 19 years, I think anyone who was under that amount of pressure would have their nervous system just very much activated in fight or flight
Mhm.
constantly. And you sounds like you adapted to that over time. You just a little bit of breaks here and there. I remember you telling me you barely slept.
Oh yeah. Let's just put it, to make it simple, it was time. It was time for me to let it go. I had to let it go. My nervous system, everything that was happening. You just know when you've done all you can do and when it's time to step away for your own well-being. Maybe someday I'll share more details about that. But right now that's not something I've been, I guess, comfortable to like really open up about, but I'm definitely about transparency and everything. So I can say that, I'm human and people go through things. And when your nervous system is dysregulated for an extended period of time, and then just take into account what was happening during the time of, my retirement and all the things, it's just, I realized at that time it was time. And it's funny because during my time in law enforcement, I love it. I don't regret it. I love it. I think it's given me so many experiences, some good, some not so good. It's given me real world experiences. It's given me a skill set. It's given me knowledge. It's given me the tools to do what I'm doing now. But I also had to rely heavily on building a relationship with Jesus, right? Because when you see evil every day and you see the worst of people and every day is conflict, like you have to have something to believe in. You have to have something good, right? And without getting too deep into it, I remember the day I was sitting in my office, and it's like, figuratively, not literally, I almost felt like there was like, as if somebody would come put their hands on your shoulders, so you're up like this because you're stressed, right? It was almost like somebody put their hands on my shoulders and just kind of gave me permission, said, you've done everything you can do. It's your turn to move on.
Good and faithful servant.
Yep. Yeah. So I had permission.
Which is exactly what you were. You were a servant to the community, doing the hardest job imaginable. I can't even watch a movie where they're giving a kid a spanking. If it's in a movie, I am still traumatized from watching Mother Dearest when I was younger.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, and it was on for a split second. We were in a hotel room. We were driving from Oregon to Texas. And it was a scene where she's like spanking this little toddler in a onesie with a hanger.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No.
And my mom comes by and goes, okay, we're going to turn this off. And I was like, oh my gosh. And still to this day, it was a blue onesie. I think that's what it was.
We've got a little trauma.
Have you ever seen it, John? Okay. Well, yeah, that still traumatized me. So anyway, I can't imagine the things that you saw. And now you had your change. You come to Texas. You packed everything up, your dogs, your Jeep, and just packed it up. And you came here to Texas, and you decided to go into health and nutrition.
Yes. So while I was in law enforcement, as you reminded me, health, fitness, nutrition was a big part of my life, mostly because I had to be fit for the job, right? You have to be able to, you should be fit if you're in that position, right? So
not everybody gets that memo.
Not everybody gets that memo, but I actually was trained in Dallas, the old Cooper standards, but the Cooper Institute. And so I was the fitness specialist. So I was the fitness specialist for my city, for my department. And so I did give both nutritional and fitness advice.
Cooper.
Did you?
Yes, I did go to Cooper Institute.
So did I. So I have those certifications. And so after I left, I moved, I needed my nervous system to regulate. I mean, I've been up here forever. Honestly, I think I said this last time, I was hoping for it to find a baseline. And I thought maybe if I give myself a year, it'll get there. Y'all, I'm still not baseline. I think once a cop, always a cop, because I am vigilant. So anyways, but I took a year off and I thought, okay, I need to do something else, but I have to help people. I have to impact people. It has to be rewarding. Like, what can I do? Like, nothing is going to be near that experience of what I dealt with and the little humans and the women that I help. Like, the amount of rewards, you guys, like when I would have a domestic abuse victim sitting in front of me and has zero hope, And then just to like help build her confidence, like I needed to see that light in a kid's eyes or a woman's eyes. I just needed to feel like I was being impactful, because even though I had permission to go and I know it was the right thing to do, as much as I love that job and I still very much love it and it's part of my life, I didn't know what to do. So in my mind, I'm like, well, what do I know? So I thought health and fitness. I got certified as a nutritional therapy practitioner and a functional blood chemistry specialist. I thought, well, if I can help people live longer and feel better and give them confidence that way, that'll do it. That'll fulfill that loss of identity or that purpose that I was so desperately looking for after leaving that career. Mm-hmm. I remember the first day of school, it was online, sitting down at my little counter in my apartment in Hughes Landing. And I remember feeling that feeling. I remember I told you, like, Jesus was like, okay, take a breath. It's your turn, right? Saying, this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. And it's going to be real hard. And I'm like, go away, go away. Yeah. I'm trying to get out of here, gut feeling.
Stop trying to talk to me.
And I kept feeling this isn't what you're supposed to be doing. But every time I'd feel that, I'm like, nope, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I did. And I passed and I did all the things. And I do still take coaching clients. And but it's not the thing that does it for me, right? So this is a funny story. So how Hartman Tactics started was, I have a dear friend, Monique, and her husband works in oil and gas. And he knows how much I love my old career, right? And he said, hey, we put on a lot of events. There's a shooting event at BTO range, and I'd like you to come. So I'm thinking we're just going to stand behind a table and shoot. And I hadn't shot in a couple of years because, again, I was trying to run as far away from law enforcement as I could because I thought I needed to for my nervous system to regulate. And 12 hours before, Monique calls me and she's like, hey, I'm not going. I'm like, what do you mean? I thought I was going to teach you how to shoot. And she's like, nope. I found out from Matt, her husband, thanks Matt, that it was not just a fun point and shoot day. It was a charity event for children, and we were on teams, and he put me on a team with his coworkers. So I had that like, oh my God, like I can't do this, right? Long story short, the competition went well. I did amazing. I was the team lead, and I started getting asked, and I had been asked by women and friends, like, can you teach me how to shoot? And I just always said no, not that I couldn't, because obviously I have the skill set to do so, but I was just trying to get away from law enforcement. Yeah. And it wasn't happening. And so after that, my friend Monique's like, Heather, you need to do this. Like, this is your thing. So then I started slowly helping friends and teaching them how to shoot. And then I'm like, I need to get certifications in case this turns into something. So I've got my NRA handgun instructor certification and range safety officer certification. And I'm a certified LTC license to carry instructor. And then I'm like, well, I don't want to just put guns in people's hands and teach them how to shoot. We need a foundation. So situational awareness, right? I need to teach you how to be situationally aware of your surroundings and what's happening around you. So we got to build a foundation before we put a gun in your hand and teach you how to safely own and operate a handgun.
I love it. Well, you answered a lot of questions
Sorry.
I was going to ask. No, I think it's perfect. I just let you go. For almost 19 years, or for 19 years, you learned the actions and the minds of the perps. You like how I said perps? I got that from Blue Bloods.
I love Blue Bloods.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best. You learned the actions and the minds of the perps as well as the actions of the victims. How do you use this information to help you teach in your situational awareness classes?
So my situational awareness classes, you've attended one, but they're like real deal, right? I'm not just being like, oh, keep your head up instead of keeping your head down. Like I give you the why. So imagine if a kid's like, Mom, can I do XYZ? And you're like, no. Why? Because I said so. They're going to do XYZ. But if you ask me, well, why do you not want me to do this when I go out for a jog? And I give you an example of something that has happened to a real person, that's going to stick in your head and you're going to remember that. So in my situational awareness courses, I talk about a lot. I talk about, what is situational awareness? Why is it important? I talk about a little bit about the psychology of criminals, what makes you an easy target. I talk about the OODA loop, or I call it the OODA, but I'll get crap for that because everybody calls it the OODA loop, which is just basically a thought process or a decision-making process all of us go through. But I talk about it in this perspective of a criminal, if you will, and how we can try to disrupt that loop. So make ourselves lesser a victim, lower our victim profile. And then I talk about everyday situations, and I won't be able to tick them all off here because there's so many.
Yeah.
And it varies because I love questions and answers, and I want interactive. So if you are a student of mine or you're attending one of my classes and there's a ick or a scary that's always been on your head, tell me, bring it up, because I love giving you the information that you actually need to walk away with. But yeah, I talk about a lot.
I love that. When I was in Vegas, I remembered your OODA loop. I remembered the OODA loop. I was told by my aunt, she said, hey, just be careful. In Las Vegas, a lot of crimes happen between 6 and 7 a.m. And I didn't know why. I guess maybe because everybody's finally gone to bed by like 5 a.m. And there's just a lot of stuff that can happen on the street. So I woke up one day, I had a headache. I didn't really like Vegas. I felt really, I just felt heavy there. And so I decided to go out for a walk, try to get some fresh air. It wasn't hot yet, but it was really light. It was like 6:30 in the morning. Well, with my situational awareness, I am walking down the road and I look around and there is nobody out. Businesses aren't open. There's not really a lot of cars. And it was behind the MGM Grand, which is kind of a crappy hotel anyway. That's where the convention was. It was dumb. And it was, sorry, MGM Grand.
I was just going to, sorry, MGM Grand.
I'm sorry. Well, you know what? You shouldn't allow smoking. It's disgusting. Please, seriously. Anyway, so I'm walking and I remember OODA loop because a guy starts coming up on the street. I'm thinking to myself, I'm the only person on the street.
Yeah.
I'm a female. He's a male. He's stronger than me. He's taller than me. There is nobody around. And if he's thinking of something and contemplating something, I remember the OODA loop, I'm going to disrupt that. And so I thought, what could I do?
Stand tall.
I stood tall. Yes, I stood tall.
Make eye contact.
And then I turned around. I went, ah! No, I'm just kidding. I didn't do that. No, I paused and then there's a big rock. I pulled out my phone. I went ahead and dialed 911 just in case. I mean, I was being really over the top. And then I turned around, sat on the rock and looked at him straight in the face. Yep. And then let him walk by. And then that way I was in control.
And do you remember why that's important to stand tall and make eye contact?
Because it intimidates them?
No, because it lets them know that you see them, that you're aware of them, and that you're not going to be an easy target.
Okay. I love it.
And I always say that in a situation, noise and distance are your friend. So make the noise, create the distance.
Make the noise, create the distance. Got it. How has Hartman Tactics evolved just in this past year?
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to see, I'm like stuttering because
and I remember the day that you called me. I remember the day you left the range.
Yeah.
And you knew. You go, I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I know what I want to do.
Yeah.
And you had been in a funk. And you're like, I know it. I got it. I know what I want to do. I want to teach people how to shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it just sort of, it's just been unfolding. Again, I keep getting all these opportunities and I love it. I've got a wonderful partnership with a range called Copandero in Oak Ridge. I love working there. I love the partnership. They're great. The facility is great.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful. So it creates a safe space for women. Women feel comfortable going into that range. Beautiful classrooms. It's great. So
it's like a country club, but it's a shooting range.
Yeah. They've got a cafe. Like so you're welcome, Copandero.
They've got snacks.
They got snacks. No, but just how grateful, right? Because they allowed me into their building because of my situational awareness courses. But of course, it's value for them as well because I'm bringing people who typically or likely would not go into a range by themselves into the range. And I'm introducing them to their facility, but I'm also introducing them to the sport of shooting or self-defense, right? And also just safety in general. So that has been wonderful. I do teach men as well, but I really love to focus on women and families or women, because I'll do private groups. Like if a husband, wife, and their kids want to be educated, we can do a private class, right? But I want women to know that they have the strength to confidently and comfortably take care of themselves and their families, right? And dependent on your situation, you could be in a wonderful marriage, but your husband travels for work and has a gun in the house. And now you're home and you have a gun in the house. What would you do if something happened? Would you feel comfortable touching that gun, handling that gun? I'm not saying you have to come to me so I can teach you to go to the range every week, but you should know how to safely and confidently handle a handgun if you have one in the home. You should also know how to educate your children about it, right? Now, what if you're another, like I have victims that come in that have been victims of stalking or harassing. Okay, you need to know how to safely own and operate a handgun, as well as how do you conceal? And do you have a home emergency plan if somebody would break into your house? Or what do you do in the case of an emergency? And I teach you how to train or create new neural pathways to have yourself be more prepared for that event if, God forbid, it happens. I don't teach paranoia. I don't want you to live in fear, but I want you to live aware and prepared.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone has, I'll just say someone, AKA me, has no idea how to shoot.
Yes.
I could come to you and say, okay, I'm an infant, I'm a baby, I'm scared,
Yes.
I have anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to do. It intimidates the crap out of me. You could help me.
That's my favorite.
How would you help me?
In my classes, I start with classroom. I have about a 2.5 to 3 hour classroom portion before we even do live fire. So it is, I break it down. This is a pistol. These are the parts of a pistol. I go through all of it. First of all, we talk about what is in the state of Texas constitutional and permitless carry. I talk about the benefits of having a license to carry. We talk about the different types of guns, different types of handguns. We talk about, I'll get in all of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The nomenclature. I want you to know all the parts. I want you to know why they are there and how to operate them. I don't let you leave my class unless you can operate and know how to operate that handgun, right? We talk about the fundamentals, which are your shooting stance, your grip, your sight picture and sight alignment, your trigger press, and even breathing. So we go through all of that. I talk about the universal gun safety rules, and I quiz you. I have you take a test at the end of my class. It's not a pass-fail, but it gives me an idea if I have to cover something more with you before we go put our hands on a live fire, right? So I also have a training gun, which we use in the classroom so that I make sure that you have all those fundamentals down and you feel comfortable before we even go down into the range. And then by the time we go down in the range, that's my favorite part, right? Because that's when those nerves, like I just see your eyes light up and you just feel so excited and that inner badass starts to come out because you feel comfortable. And for those of you that are afraid of the live fire part, 100%, I start with 1 round. So when we first go down there, I put 1 round in your magazine. So you fire that 1 round, and we'll do that as many times as we need to until you feel comfortable going to more, because I want you to get used to the power behind that handgun. I want you to know how it feels, the recoil, the noise before we even go up. But each person's individual, right? So some people are more comfortable than others, but I always want you to get those first few scaries out before we increase your ammunition.
I had no business going the day that I went.
No.
You did a coffee and casings, and that was basically, we just met for coffee at Copandero, and then we all went into the range. And now, you've evolved, and now like, hey, unless you've gone through one of my training courses or your experience, it's not a good idea for you to come. So
I thought you had more experience because of your husband's experience.
Right. Yeah. So I go in and I'm like, I am shaking. I've already kind of have a headache that day. And but I do respect the gun and its power. So I'm not playing around at all. But, I had my gun, I brought it, which I've never shot my gun, but we bring my gun and you show me how to line it up. I actually did really good. I shot like 2 or 3 rounds, but then I was like, okay, I'm done here, because I was not even remotely prepared for the power that I would feel of the energy that comes out. It was like a vortex of a waft of like,
you're going to scare people.
Sorry. Well, I just wasn't prepared for it. So if I had gone through the class, then I would have been much better. Yeah. So, my point is that to anybody who wants to learn to shoot, they can come to your class and go through the proper training steps. Don't do what I did and just think you're going to go in and pick up a gun in a shooting range and then just go to town.
No. And here's the other thing. My class is comprehensive. And there are so many shooting classes you can choose, and that's great. Do what makes you feel the most comfortable. But a couple things with me is I'm women only. I keep my classes small. I keep it at a 4 maximum, unless of course you're a group of friends that already feel comfortable with each other. And then based on a case by case, I will determine whether or not or how many I'll take in, right? Because I want you all to have that one-on-one attention. But I don't structure my classes as take this beginner and then sign up for the next one and the next one and the next one, because I'm not trying to just make a bunch of money off you. That's not what I'm trying to do. When you walk out of my introduction to handgun class, you are going to have confidence and you're going to feel comfortable. Do I think that, yes, everybody should take more, even if it's one-on-one, just to get more experience? Yeah. Yes. But I'll even touch base on malfunctions. It's not a malfunction class, but I'm going to introduce it to you, because what service would I be doing you when my whole mission is making you feel confident, empowered, strong, safe, and then you have an incident, but your gun malfunctions and you don't know what to do with it. So I even jump into like, let me show you and introduce you to the most common malfunctions and the ways that we clear those, so that you'll remember. So if you're in a situation, which I hope none of you ever are, right? But if that happens, you're going to even know how to do that. So my class is very comprehensive. It's women only, and it is a lot of one-on-one attention. So that's where I think I stand out. Not to mention, I am a female and I know what it's like to shoot a gun, and I know what works for most females. So I love what I do.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So you have introduction to handgun. Yes. You have situational awareness.
Yes.
You have personal instruction. Like somebody can hire you personally.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't want to do a class. Maybe they're embarrassed, or maybe they just like the one-on-one. Mm-hmm. They can hire you individually. Mm-hmm. And then you also have the LTC classes that you've just started those.
Yep.
Right. Okay. And what most people don't realize is that when you have an instructor, a lot of it is LTC classes. It's not what you're doing with the introduction to handgun is truly unique.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody in the area really doing something as comprehensive as what you're doing.
Probably not as comprehensive. There are a lot of ranges that offer beginner handgun. Absolutely. Getting you comfortable with the part there. Yes, that's around, right? But mine's different. I'm catered to women for a specific reason. You know, I want you to walk out of there knowing that you can protect yourself and your family.
And you've also done a few specialty things where you've done some real estate specific situational awareness courses.
Actually, that is one that's really important to me. So my situational awareness course that you attended, I do one specifically for realtors, because y'all are literally going into empty houses with strangers. So and in fact, I do a 3-day course. I do individual courses as well, but I have a 3-day course specifically. Well, I shouldn't say specifically, but so far it's been very popular with the female realtors, because day 1 is going to be the introduction to handguns. Day 2 is going to be LTC, so that you can get your license to carry, so that you have that legal aspect behind you, especially since you're likely going to be carrying in the act of your duties in business. And then the 3rd day is concealed carry. So I bring you into a classroom and I show you all the different ways I introduce you to different holsters, different ways to carry, different positions to carry, and how can you carry and still look cute? Like, how can you wear the normal clothes that you wear to work and then nobody's going to know that you're armed, right? So that's fun and that's important.
Yeah, because you can still wear your tight pants.
Yeah.
Everybody's looking at my tight pants. I've got my tight pants on. You remember that Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, that was an old one.
That was the best, the tight pants. If you've not seen the Saturday Night Live video where they do tight pants, it's the best. But you could wear your tight pants and conceal carry, because they have the spot for it. Or you could do a fanny pack, which I love me a fanny pack.
Yeah, but the shirt you're wearing right now is perfect for concealed carry, because patterns are amazing with concealing a handgun, especially if you're carrying appendix or high appendix. So I would love to get one on you right now and show you what it would look like.
I'm still a little scared. So can it be not loaded?
It can be, yes.
Can it be fake?
Yes, absolutely.
Just to get me used to it, just to get me used to it. What if it like drops down your pants to your leg?
Because that means you're not doing it correctly. Okay. So I will never teach you something that is going to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about in the boot? Like, that would be cool.
We'll talk after this podcast. One other thing that I just want to bring up, I do a campus safety and awareness. So I would say high schoolers that are getting ready to transition into college, I really want them to understand situational awareness, but even some special areas that it pertains mostly to being on campus, right? So we've got the parties, we've got sexual violence that is inevitable. in campus situations and specifically during certain times, right? So I want to help high schoolers and new college students understand how to be more safe on campus, but also if they were ever a victim of a sexual assault, what are the do's and don'ts? Like, how can you do that and get it reported for the best outcome, but also to take that stigma away from you being afraid to report because you feel like you're responsible somehow. So it's really important for me to help educate youth in that way as well.
Avery will definitely be front row Joe on that one.
Yeah, it's important, especially when it comes to sexual violence. I want you to know, like, if that would ever happen, like, what do you do? How do you report it safely? You know, don't be afraid, like the thought process of your parents, or get rid of those fears that you have, thinking that you somehow were responsible. Because usually when that happens, especially in a college situation, not always, but there's usually alcohol involved, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a big reason that victims of sexual violence don't want to report, because they feel like the police officer's not going to believe them. They feel like it's their fault because they had drank. Their parents are going to get mad at them. I'm going to erase that. I'm going to take all that away from you, and I'm going to explain to you why. Because the most important thing is your mental and emotional well-being. And if you don't report and you hold on to something that heavy, it's going to have really harsh consequences with depression, anxiety, and possibly worse.
Do you educate on trafficking as well? Because people think that it's just the high school girls that are getting trafficked. Mm-hmm. College girls are getting trafficked too.
Yeah, I talk about that a little bit in my situational awareness. Yeah. And that's, again, when I talk about, just being safe, especially when we go to shopping malls or we're at gas stations or rest stops, and where do we park? How do we park? What do we do if we approach our car? Tracking devices. We talk about all the things so that you can also hopefully lower your victim profile and the chances of encountering one of these people as well that are trying to somehow, groom you or just straight up take you.
Yeah. Some close family friends of ours, their daughter went to Texas A&M, mm-hmm. and it was her roommate that mm-hmm. was being groomed. Mm-hmm. But this is not like a overnight thing. Mm-mm. They're very patient. And it took course over about 9 months. Yeah. And the organization was on campus. Like, they had a table on campus where they were doing modeling for the girls. They were doing pictures, and they would pay them, but they convinced them to make their own private Instagram page, mm-hmm. and then they would fill it up with all the pictures, and the pictures over time, like, they would actually pay them. Like, they got paid $50 a picture. And so they would fill up this Instagram, and then over time the pictures got more and more risque, mm-hmm. and they'd tell the girls, don't show anybody just yet. Like, when you're ready, then you can do like a big reveal of it. And it was a overtime thing. And they basically started to become friends with the girl, and now she's hanging out with them, then started giving her some alcohol, and then, her grades started slipping. She kind of started moving away from some of her close friends, mm-hmm. stopped talking to family members. Next thing you know, there's a big dude at the house, and she's about to go out of town with him for this long modeling shoot because she trusts them. She trusts them. Mm-hmm. She trusts them. This is at Texas A&M. Yeah. And these are smart girls.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And, not to put Texas on blast, but we're close to the border, right? So how easy is it to cross state lines? So yeah, there's so much education, and I'm here. I'm glad you're asking me about this. I want people to know about my business. I want them to know the why behind it, but it's not necessary. I'm not trying to solicit, like, come to me. But do I want you to come to me? Yes, because I want you to be safe. I that is my number one goal, is to educate, let you know what's going on out there, what potential dangers there are, and how can you, best navigate them.
Well, it is no lie and no secret that our population mm-hmm. has increased for a variety of reasons. And I'm sure many of you can probably say why, but there are more people here than there ever were before. Mm-hmm. And there are many dangerous people mm-hmm. Left and right that are coming out. And every single one of us needs to have some sort of safety and awareness, as well as in some way to defend themselves. In your situational awareness class, you give them other options. There's people who don't want a gun.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, because I'm not here promoting violence by any means. Let me be very clear on that. But if you are somebody who is interested in learning how to use a handgun. I want you to do it safely, right?
Yeah.
But there are nonviolent ways, which is why I have my situational awareness. Let's first talk about how can you present yourself in order to have that confidence, in order to disrupt that OODA or that OODA loop, right? So that you are less of a target. But then let's talk about nonviolent or non-lethal means of personal protection, like devices you can carry on your person that can help you create that distance if you're in a situation that, becomes threatening.
Bat wrapped in barbed wire.
No.
Okay.
Like a personal alarm or pepper spray or a stun gun or, there's a bunch of options.
I wanted to say that when people start to get to know you, you have this energy about you, this beauty about you, this level of confidence. And well, first off, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that she's an incredibly beautiful woman.
Thanks.
And, that to another female, that makes them say, God, wow, she's so pretty. And then it's like, man, she holds herself so well and confident. And it's contagious. It's contagious. Like, it's easy kind of to let ourselves go a little bit. But when you take pride in your health and, whatever it is that makes you feel pretty and confident, then you make someone want to do that. And not just in that aspect, but also in your health and in your fitness. You're very strong. You're tall. Have I told you that you're tall? I love that you're tall. And you don't have a problem wearing heels. And that confidence, it's contagious to others.
Yeah.
Like it makes another female say, man, I want to stand up a little taller.
Yeah.
I want to be a little stronger. I want to walk with a little bit more pep in my step. And it's just all of those things.
Yeah.
And I think that is another, it's you're almost like a trend. I wouldn't be surprised if I start seeing a lot more women in our area that would be like, you know what? I think I might dye my hair red.
Well,
I think I might wear a little bit more black and jeans.
It's funny because I've had people say, do you need to soften it up? Do you need to tone it down? You're going to be intimidating. No, I don't want to, because I know I'm a good person and I know my vibe and I know my background. So it's like, I want you. If I look edgy, if I look a little, I just keep saying the word badass, right? Well, I am, number one. I am. But that's because I have the experience and I've earned that. And I grew up with a dad and two brothers, right? So I've earned that. But I want you to be proud of who you are. I don't want you to dim your light. I want you to shine brighter. I want you to intimidate those that you need to intimidate, right? I want you, I don't want you to dim yourself. I want you to have that value and that self-confidence to just truly be authentically you. Because if somebody has an issue with you, it's usually a reflection on an insecurity that they have. And, I pray for them that they're able to work on those insecurities. So that's not a rip on that. But I want you to show off those tattoos. I want you to stand tall. I want you to wear the tight pants, whatever it is that you want to wear, right? I'm not going to dim myself. I want you to be drawn to me because of my energy and because you see something in me that I can help bring out in you, right? Based on my experiences, my background, who I am today. I truly just want to help people. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your heart and why you've gotten into Hartman Tactics and everything that you're doing and your journey. I think it's beautiful, and everyone needs a Heather. Yeah. Everyone needs to come to your course. And
can I just say, I have 70-year-olds that have been coming to me.
I love it.
I have 3 ladies in their 70s that are coming to me now, and that is so fun.
That is,
I love them.
I know it's like that's what I'm saying. It's like this. I'm inspired by when I see 60-year-old, 70-year-old women that say, you know what, I'm tired of being out of shape. I've been in health and fitness for so many years, and I see a 67-year-old woman says, I'm tired of being out of shape. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. And she starts out lifting like 5-pound dumbbells. And then next thing you know, she's got biceps. She's doing pull-ups and push-ups and squats. And I mean, that sense of energy and empowerment, I mean, you can conquer the world.
That's it.
Think about how much work we can do. This is God's kingdom.
Yeah.
We are in the kingdom. And how much can we do to help others when we feel good?
Yeah.
And we can't feel good unless we're healthy. And we also can't feel good unless we're safe.
Yeah.
So, Amy health and Heather safety.
Yeah. Okay, guys. So my website is hartmantactics.com. My Instagram is Hartman Tactics. my Facebook is Hartman Tactics. There's a lot of censorship going on right now in our world. And so it's really tough sometimes to find my social media platforms. But if you type in the whole Hartman Tactics, I should pop up. So follow me, ask me questions. I will always reply.
And she's got really cute dogs.
Yeah.
They're really needy too.
Very needy dogs.
Well, thank you very much. And let's go get some lunch.
Okay, let's do it.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for listening to another episode of According to the Cassels with Amy and Trey. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. To stay up to date with the Cassels, follow Amy on Instagram @acassels. Until next time, have faith, enjoy life, and love abundantly.